Welcome to the Greater Culture Podcast, where we have conversations about how to elevate the quality of life through movement, nutrition, recovery, and mindset practices.
Welcome to another episode of the Greater Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Marshall, and today, very excited to be joined by Zack Griffith. He lives up in the Richmond, Virginia area. He's now the owner of CrossFit Formula Athletics. Really excited to dive into his story of how he became the owner of CrossFit Formula Athletics and what that's going to look like for him moving forward, since it is a new gym. So, Zack, thanks so much for taking some time to jump on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate the invite. Super pumped to be here and excited to get into it.
And so, Zack, you are a CrossFit athlete for a long time now, and you've been coaching in the space for a while, and now adding the title of gym owner to your resume. So love to hear a little bit about your journey of how you got into fitness and how that adapted over the years and how eventually it led to you now wanting to open and own your own CrossFit space.
Yeah, so this story goes back quite a ways. Growing up, we were playing sports lacrosse in Baltimore, Maryland. So in Maryland, lacrosse is pretty competitive. So going into high school, actually even middle school, like in the off season, Thanksgiving Day, we would start running at the track with my dad, my older brother, and even my younger sister, who when we started was probably maybe elementary school, maybe middle school. But we start on Thanksgiving, just working out, running in the off season 3 days a week. And it just kind of became a thing how we got in shape for lacrosse. And then as we got into high school, where it became more competitive, going to a private school with the goal of going and playing in college, a lot of people were getting, off-season trainers. Our team got us involved with a personal trainer off site, and it was very like CrossFit-esque without calling it CrossFit. A lot of dumbbells, tire flipping, man makers, things like that, which personally I really enjoyed. And that's kind of where my passion for fitness and challenging myself started, was off-season training for sports. Then moving forward to college, I went to University of South Carolina. And during high school, I was following CrossFit. I'd say I was doing CrossFit. I was working out more like with a bro split, but like on my chest day, I would find a workout that had a lot of CrossFit workout that had a lot of push-ups. If I was deadlifting, I'd find a CrossFit workout that had a lot of deadlifts. And so I kind of end with the conditioning piece. And when I got to college, I found an affiliate, signed up, fell in love with it, and that's where I started my journey, is wanting to become more involved, becoming a coach. The owner of the gym was actually like, "Hey, you're a promising athlete. You want to stay here for the summer and keep training with us and not go home after school closes?" I'm like, "Well, if that's the case, I'm going to need a job." So he's like, "Well, how many hours a week do you need?" I'm like, "Well, this is what I need to make per week." And I'm like, "If you pay me minimum wage 8 hours a week, I'll take 40 hours. And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm not going to make you work 40 hours a week and pay you $8 an hour, but let's get you that number. You'll be an assistant coach on the floor." And that's kind of where it started. And then I got my level 1 and just kind of kept going down the rabbit hole like most people do, of wanting to learn more, wanting to become better coach. And both myself as an athlete and a coach they both went deeper down that rabbit hole of wanting to be better personally and wanting to be better to help others out. So that's kind of where it started. I kind of opened up my CrossFit career back in 2016, I think.
It's amazing how many folks have that journey of, we're a competitive athlete or just enjoyed working out, enjoying the fitness aspect, and that leads them to, hey, I enjoy this for myself. Can I help other people with this? So at what point in time did you realize that coaching was something that you were really interested in? And it sounds like you had a sort of a mentor at that first gym who maybe saw some potential in you, but was there sort of a process along the way of, what, I really want to help other people the way that I've enjoyed CrossFit to this point?
Well, yeah. So, even coaching, it started back before I got into CrossFit. When I was in high school, I think it was my elementary school soccer coach was asking for like older high school athletes to come and volunteer on some of the practices. And just so every now and then I kind of dip my foot back and go help coach some little kids through soccer. And that was kind of the start of being like, hey, I like sharing what I know and helping other people get better. So when I got to college and I started coaching, and I'm seeing that I'm making a difference in these people's lives, and it's a cue here and there or a tip here and there And especially when someone's like, man, I've been struggling to get my first kipping pull-up for like 8 months now. And you give them like one quick tip or a couple cues, and they get it and seeing it click, and they're just like, man, this 8 months has come to like an end finally. I got it. I've reached this goal. And it's helping people get over that hurdle is give me a good sense of value to be able to help someone and get over that hump.
Yeah, I think the excitement that we get when we are able to help somebody achieve something or build a skill or build a capacity that maybe they didn't realize they had, that is one of the most exciting parts about coaching. And what we know about coaching, though, is it can be a challenging business to figure out and navigate, like, can I do this full time, or is this a part-time thing that I do outside of my regular work? So talk to us a little bit about your journey, because I know at a point in time you were a firefighter along the way. So how did it come to be that you were able to balance, or what did that look like in terms of coaching and then figuring out what you were doing for either full-time work or making all of that come together?
Yeah, so just back up, I misspoke before. 2016 wasn't when I started CrossFit. That's when I graduated college and kind of started my firefighting career. So at that point, I was graduating college and trying to become an adult. So I needed a job that had essentially insurance. But I'm obviously passionate about being active, being physical, staying in shape. So I was looking and became a firefighter. And I became a firefighter, and I moved to Raleigh at the time, and was still staying involved with the CrossFit world, obviously working out. And when I would finish up at the academy, when things would start slowing down, being a firefighter is a perfect career to have a second job. So I continued to work part-time as a CrossFit coach. So I was able to keep doing that part-time and filling my cup with happiness to be able to help people in the gym and going down that route. A couple of years later, met my wife. She lives up here in Richmond. So we were doing the distance. We got engaged. We were looking at her coming down here, her coming down to Raleigh, me coming up here to Richmond. And ultimately I came up here, got a job with the Henrico Fire Department, and I was working full-time up here up until this most recent December. But the story of the transition actually kind of takes place coincidentally like the weekend of our wedding. So I remember specifically we rented a one-night hotel because I was in the fire academy. So I'm like, hey, can I have a long weekend? I'm getting married. And they're just like, I mean, I guess so. You're not really supposed to miss days in the fire academy, but yeah, that's a big deal. So they gave me the long weekend, and we're like, well, we're not going to not do a honeymoon. So we did one night at a super fancy hotel. And I remember sitting on the balcony the next morning, and I got an Instagram advertisement for the training think tank mentorship. And I talked to my wife about it. I'm like, hey, this is a cool opportunity to develop as a coach. And she's like, you know what, let's go for it. Like, I believe in you. Let's do it. So we signed up for the mentorship, and that was about a 6 to 8 month long process of pretty in-depth book work. Couple hours of videos each week, homework, stuff that you had to do on your own free time. And that was kind of teaching me to run a business more so from like the coaching perspective and how to interact with people and clients, and to work on my writing skills and to work on my communicating skills, more so with the sense of like one-on-one coaching clients. But a lot of the concepts could be transitioned to many aspects of just work and life. So when that was completed, we were kind of like, you know what, here's kind of some of our values as me and my wife, and here's the environment we want to be in. And currently in Richmond, we're not finding that. So that was kind of what started us to pursue the dream of trying to open a gym. And we're looking at it, and when we were putting together a business model and some plans and things like that, we were trying to figure out how we could do this, whether we could afford it in general. If we could afford it, what would that look like? We weren't trying to half butt anything. We wanted to go full in. So we're like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And what that ultimately turned into was, we can't afford a full-time coach, which the gym needs. So we after looking at numbers, we decided that I was going to leave the career as a firefighter, and I was going to be the full-time coach and manage the gym as we grow. So this past December, we pulled the trigger slightly sooner, but I had to get out of the career as a firefighter about this past December, and that's when things really started to fall into place. We got into the unit. We're building out the gym. we're hoping to be open next week. And all of the needed to be there in person pieces fell into place. So that's when we're doing this full time right now, and we're super excited about it. I'm anxious, excited, nervous, but pumped. Can't wait.
Yeah, all the emotions come to mind, and I can imagine experiencing all of the range of them as you work through that process of, okay, I've got a job, there's stable salary, I've got benefits, I know a paycheck's coming through, and now we're going to take this risk and take a chance and bet on myself. And so I'm curious, when you work through that process, you went through the mentorship, you continue to coach and probably get some feedback from folks. What gave you the confidence to say, you know what, let's take a chance, let's bet on ourselves, and let's see if we can make this thing a full-time career rather than maybe the part-time passion project that it was?
So, I mean, my wife and I, we were, I say secretly talking about it. Just the two of us were spitting all this idea off one another. We'd spoken to a few friends, like not in the area, who have experience in it, to kind of be like, what does it really look like behind the scenes other than just what you see as a member? And they were giving us a lot of good guidance. And during this time where no one really knew what was going on, so many of our friends in our local community were like, you need to open up a gym. Without getting into it, kind of being like, we believe in the values that you believe in. We think you guys could open a phenomenal place. You guys should open a gym. We even had people come to us saying, hey, we think you should open up a gym. If you can't afford it, we would like to, and I want to hire you full time to do it. And that was a whole different thing to think about. But we were kind of like, you know what? So many people believe in us. So many people are supporting us. If half of them give us a chance, this place will be successful. So it was kind of the bullying or pressure from other people that kind of made us look more seriously at it and think a little bit deeper into it. And then obviously a couple of our friends who we were bouncing a lot of serious topics off of were kind of like, just jump off the ledge, just do it, just jump off the ledge. And it was kind of that, I guess, negative peer pressure, which ultimately I think will be positive peer pressure by the end of it. But it was kind of just a lot of positive people saying that you're going to be successful. We believe in your concepts. They looked over our business model. They looked over a lot of our philosophies, our principles, our ideas of how we want to approach the gym. And they're like, this will do it. You guys should go for it. And it was a lot of getting people's feedback and doing our homework that reassured us that it would be possible.
Yeah, and that journey takes some time. You mentioned, graduating in 2016 and then jumping into the fire department, and over that probably 7-year span of learning, growing, developing as a coach, building the relationships, and then those people in turn are like, hey, we have seen your growth. We've seen what you can provide. We love what you've got going on. Like, we want to support it. So that confidence from the community is such a huge factor in being able to feel like, you know what, we can actually do this. And I think we can get some support and do it the right way. And one of the things that, we're really passionate about with Greater Culture is how we help improve the quality of life of folks. And you and I both have found the joy through fitness and improving our own lives. And I'm kind of curious to hear what your take is on that. You mentioned that the values and the way that you think about health and fitness and wellness resonates with other people. So how would you sort of categorize or define this idea of, like, how do we build this quality of life, or how do we help people feel happier, healthier, more fulfilled? Like, how do you think about that concept?
Yes, I kind of think it breaks down into two categories. One, first, foremost, like most physical health, and then second being like mental or happiness. And the first one, I try to think of my dad, for example. He's a super active person. And I know, like, when you become older, you're 60, 70, if you're lucky to live to 80, like, you want to be able to do the things you love and not have your health hold you back from that. So if you want to be able to ride a bike when you're 40 years old, 50, 60, 70, you need to just physically be healthy to do that. You need to be able to move well. You need to be able to have cardiovascular endurance to ride a bike. And it doesn't need to be extreme sports by any means, but if you're limited because of your health that's holding you back from doing things that you enjoy, then we need to address that. And I think you need to live a physically healthier life so that you're not limited physically on being able to be happy, because I think those two are very important pieces together. And then the second one being like kind of the mental health and the happiness. I've seen it a lot as a firefighter and working in the healthcare system. There's a lot of negativity out there, whether it's, a lot of stuff we can't control. You just see negative things. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. And the whole aspect of we need to create an environment that people can come have fun, even outside of it being a gym. This is a community that fosters people being happy, having fun, doing community events, doing things outside the gym that people enjoy that are healthy in nature. But even if we're going to meet at a brewery, drink responsibly, we're going to do these fun events that there's going to be cookies at, but we're going to be responsible adults, like live a happy, healthy, balanced lifestyle, where people can get away from their tough days at work. They can get away from the struggles of life, whether you're a single mother, you're working a low-paying job, you see bad things at work. Just being able to kind of put that away and have something to recharge, refocus, and be in a support system that brings like happiness, energy, and positivity to your life. I think are all important things, both physical and mental health coming together to be one total picture of an ideal life.
Yeah, I think how simplistic it is when you look at it from the outside of, hey, if you can move a little bit and that allows you to do all the things you want to do, whether it's, like you said, play with your kids into old age, be able to move and keep up with folks or just go on that bike ride. And then on the other side, if we're looking at building happiness, well, we know surrounding ourselves with a community that is meaningful, that there's some purpose, there's some connection there. That's a huge aspect to it. And melding those two together, we're getting people some movement, we're getting them a nice community, we're having some fun, we're enjoying the lifestyle that you said of continually trying to improve. That might help people to feel a little bit better, be a little bit happier, be a little bit more fulfilled. And you mentioned earlier that you have a way in terms of values or maybe even like a mission statement that you've come to know and understand. So I'd be curious to hear, when it comes to Formula Athletics, what are some of those values or how do you think about that concept or what's driving the brand forward?
So I'd say kind of the three topics behind our brand, and this is also how we did all of our hiring, is be a good person, do the right thing, and treat everyone fairly. And you'll notice that those things are unrelated to health, or unrelated to coaching. So from a coaching perspective, when we hired our coaches, I was like, hey, if you have zero coaching skills from a technically being able to improve someone's movement patterns or like coach the Olympic lifts, I can teach you those things. What I can't teach you is to be a good person, to want to be here, to care about the members, to have passion for what you're learning about, and to try to push others to be the best version of themselves. So, and I think all of those things are important to being a good coach and then ultimately to having a good gym. So in a good community, a good environment. So we kind of try to make our decisions based on those things. And a lot of these decisions are simply just related to being in the gym, what type of programming we're doing, what type of things we're going to offer to our members, and what type of gym options, things along those lines, just kind of making all of our gym-related topics or health-related topics with those three things in mind.
Yeah, I think when a gym or a brand knows their identity, knows what they stand for, it helps not only communicate that to others, but helps them to get on board with it. Hey, if it's about being a good person, about caring about others, about doing the right thing, I can get on board with that. I vibe with that environment. I vibe with that community. So now the people you hire, the way you execute your coaching, the members who are coming in, they all can resonate with that. So I think having those pillars and those values can be really, really helpful in connecting with other folks and then building that culture that I think we're all striving to not only build, but then maintain as you continue to grow and expand. And I know before you mentioned some of the things that you get excited about. I'd love to hear your perspective. You've been coaching for a little while now, and you get a chance to coach high-level competitive athletes. You get to coach folks who are just trying to, like you said, get off their 9-to-5 job and come and enjoy an hour of movement. So what are some of the things that really excite you or get you motivated and fired up to start a CrossFit gym and continue to want to show up for the folks who are coming for your programming, for your classes, or for the experience with you?
So obviously, like the big peaks are when people hit their goals, whether it's a goal of hitting this weight on a snatch, whether it's a goal of qualifying for semifinals, whether it's a goal of podium at a local competition, or if it's a goal of saying like, hey, I hit all my steps this week, or hey, I got 8 hours of sleep every night or 4 nights this week, which was the goal. All those, like, achieving those goals are huge. But the other thing that I definitely find that I recharge off of is just like being in person with people. And interacting with them. So I had the opportunity a couple weekends to meet two of my remote athletes. One of them was competing at Fitness of the Coast down in Charleston. So I drove down to Charleston and I helped her compete all weekend. But on my way down there, I stopped in Fayetteville with another one of my athletes, and I was able to train with them in person on my way down to Charleston, and kind of getting that face-to-face interaction was huge for me to be able to obviously give them some coaching tips, give them some feedback in person that is tougher to do with a remote athlete relationship. But just being able to be like, I'm a real person, you're a real person. You can't replace like actual interactions with people and communicating with people. And it recharged me, filled my cup, and I just felt huge about all those things and being able to help people work towards their goals, see them in person, see the excitement on their face. And it's just a real high. It's tough to beat.
Yeah, I mean, I can see and I can hear the excitement you get just reliving some of those moments of being in the space with people as you're coaching them, helping them on their goals and their journeys, and seeing some of those improvements. And interestingly enough, you were a pretty competitive, high-level athlete as well in the CrossFit space. And I always find it's interesting with folks who've, been able to achieve certain things as a competitor and either make the transition or continue to coach. Some of those, not pros and cons, but just some of the highs. When you think about that, comparing your life as a competitive athlete to life as a coach, are there things that you like or maybe are most intrigued about with both of those areas? Like, is there one you enjoy more, or what did you think about?
I probably enjoy coaching more because it hurts less.
I could agree with that. I could agree with that.
But, being a competitive athlete was real cool. I got to do a lot of cool things. I've been to Wadapalooza like 6 or 7 times. I think my first year in there was like 2014 or 2015. And I went for like the next 6 years in a row. And that was a real cool experience. And I've been to Austin, Texas, been all up and down the East Coast. But now that I've transitioned to a coach role, I'm definitely wearing a new hat and I'm enjoying it. It's real cool to be able to help my athletes achieve new things, share the wisdom that I have that took me 5, 6, 7, 8 years to understand, that I can help them figure out 1, 2 years in, that puts them ahead of the curve. And some stuff you can't control, obviously, but there's stuff that I've learned that I can help pass on to the new athletes that they don't need to worry about. And I'm really enjoying the athlete role now, the coaching role now, being able to help them out. It's been awesome. It's been very different and very cool, but being on the sideline, helping strategize, helping them, seeing them get excited when they finish the lift, finish the workout first, smash something. It's real cool. It's definitely different, but exciting.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. It is fun to compete and throw down and see what your own fitness is capable of, even, at this day and age. But to see and help others when you get a chance to coach them on the spot and see the smiles on their faces or the pain after a workout, but that they just like really gave it their all, there's really not much that can top that. So it's a really cool experience. I'm curious to hear what your own personal sort of goals are when you think about, as a competitive athlete for all those years, you had the goal of being as fit as you possibly could and being able to showcase that in a competitive setting. And I think it's always a challenging transition of, hey, I still want to be fit. I still want to lift heavy things. I want to move fast. I want to do all the gymnastic movements, but maybe it just looks a little different now, or maybe the time that you commit to it is a little bit different. So I'd love to hear your transition. And for those out there, Zach's no slouch. If you look at his open and movements, he's still a very, very high level athlete, I would say. But I'd love to hear, what was that process like, or that transition of like maybe the focus shifting, or what does it look like now compared to maybe what it did look like?
Yeah. So as a high level athlete, obviously I was making a lot of sacrifices, not in doing some things that I enjoyed because it wasn't conducive to being a high level athlete. And now I've transitioned to goals are similar, but my willingness to make sacrifices are less because my other goals are now more important to me. So I would say that my biggest goal right now is to create this gym and this community of like-minded people that want to be better, want to push themselves to be the best they can, and enjoy life. And I probably would say that and enjoy life is what's different potentially for a high-level athlete versus someone who's trying to be fit. Because you make a lot of sacrifices. You don't You probably don't eat sweets, or many of them. You probably don't consume alcohol. You go to bed early. And I think all those things are super important, but you make a lot of sacrifices as a high level athlete that you may not be loving your life as much as you are loving competing. And those are two different things. But my goals now as an athlete are more to lead by example, show that hard work does pay off. Working consistently towards something will get you to your goals. And I want to kind of be a role model for my community, with the understanding of I'm not going to train twice a day every day. I'm not going to be able to go to bed early and sleep in late because I'm going to be coaching a 5:30 a.m. class and I'll be at the gym about 7:30 at night. I'm not going to be getting massages, which high-level athletes need to do because I'm not going to have the time for it. So just being the best that I can be given my situation, I think it's still going to be it's going to show, I'll say, regular people, or show my community that if you work hard, you can reach your goals. You can work towards your goals. And that being said, this year with the Open for me, quitting the fire department in December, I was like, okay, I got about 3 months, 2 months-ish to try to catch up on 6 years of deprived sleep. And we're just going to put our best foot forward. And I was very pleased with my performance considering that. So it was kind of a year for me to prove real quick, a 2-month peak, that I still have this, I can still do it, and I can be a role model for my community. And it was personal for me in that stance, that I was kind of doing it not for me, but for this gym that I'm creating. And I'm trying to create an image and a standard that if you work hard, you can reach your goals.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting to hear you say that when you think about this idea of our purpose, or why people engage in the activities and the practices that they do. And for a while there, it was the personal desire for competitive drive, wanting to do well. And as that has shifted, and now the purpose sounds more aligned with wanting to be a role model and prove to the community and be there for them. Like, there's an enjoyment that I heard you speak about, even training and getting ready for the Open, doing it for other people. All of a sudden it was like, wow, this is really meaningful. And I'm still able to perform at a pretty high level and find that balance that might be helpful for me to be fulfilled and happy and be able to be a great coach at the gym. Because like you said, if you're, engaging and sacrificing all these other areas for the competitive desires you have, sometimes it could be challenging to give the time and energy to the gym or to your community or to the athletes you program, if that's the case.
100%. Yeah. It's being a competitive athlete is a selfish thing. You have to put yourself and your goals above sometimes your family, your friends, and your community, or it could be just other relationships you're having. Like, you're doing 2 sessions a day. Someone wants to grab coffee in the morning. You're like, hey, I can't. I got to go train. Someone wants to, you have a family function. Your loved one might want to stay later, but you're like, hey, I need to go back to bed. And those are just sacrifices that hopefully you and your loved one, your family, and your friends are making together, and everyone understands. But it's definitely has its sacrifices that you have to make to be a high-level athlete. That, especially being married now and opening this gym, my goals have shifted, and I'm not willing to make some of those sacrifices anymore.
Yeah, I think that's such a great perspective for all of us. Your goals can shift and change at any point in time. So once you go down a path, doesn't mean you're committed to that path for the long haul. You can say, hey, I want to go all in and train up for an upcoming competition or a race or something that's meaningful, and work on making those sacrifices. And then there's other times of your life where you're like, you know what, things are hectic. Just had a kid, or just changed relationships or jobs or whatever else. And those goals might shift and change too. And that's what I love about the coaching relationship, is that someone like yourself can help guide and influence someone along the way of like, hey, let's establish what is meaningful. What do you want to work on? And then how can we help you get there? And it's always interesting to hear where people's practices lead them. So as a competitive athlete, I'm sure there were certain practices, daily things that were really helpful for you to be happy and fulfilled, both in the movement side as well as the mental side. But what does that look like now for you day to day when you think about just the things that you engage with to make sure that, physically, mentally, all of that you're happy and fulfilled? What are some of those practices for you on a day-to-day basis?
One of the things that I think I try to look at to continue to be like a better version of myself, I guess, is this concept that my coach introduced to me. It's called the plus minus equal. And it's surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, equal to you, and then I don't say worse than you, but someone who has more room for improvement than you do. And this can come into many and all aspects of life. So if we want to talk about it in the gym, it could be a better athlete, someone you're competing with, and someone that's chasing you. And you might be looking up to this better athlete saying, like, what types of habits, characteristics, what type of things are they doing? And this is a role model to me. The equal person might be someone that you're like, hey, this is who I'm trying to beat today, because we're very competitive with one another. If I see they going broken, I'm going to go broken. And then also the minus, or the person that has more room improvement than you do, it's like I'm a role model for them. They're looking up to me, so I need to bring my best game. And I just, in life, try to have plus, minus, and equals in many areas. So going through the mentorship, like Max Elhazer, owner of Training Think Tank, he obviously was 100% the plus. He was the person that we were looking up to. We were trying to learn their habits and follow. And then my fellow mentees, we were broken into small groups. One of my co-mentees, this girl, Colleen, we were bouncing a bunch of ideas off of one another. And not that we were competing with one another, but I had some ideas that helped her. She had some ideas that helped me, and we both became better from it. And then kind of moving now, I have coaches that are coming to me in purely a technical coaching standpoint that I'm like, I have a lot that I can teach them. And then business side of things, I have an accountant friend who he's teaching me a ton about business. And my wife and I are learning this together. We're figuring it out. And I'll probably say at this point, I don't really have a minus there because I'm pretty down low on the totem pole, but we're just trying to have mentors that push us and make us better. And that's also kind of how we are going to, or did, hire our staff. It's a lot of people that I think all of them are better than me at least one thing. So I know day to day when we get into the gym, I'm going to learn something from everyone, whether it's group management, whether it's communicating with individuals, whether some of them are high up in business management. So I can learn from them how to better effectively communicate with my coworkers, with the gym members, running the business, things along those lines. So the big thing that I try to have is people that I look up to and people that are better than me in all aspects of life, because then I'm constantly learning and I'm constantly becoming a better version of myself. And I highly would recommend this practice to everyone, of finding someone better than you at essentially everything and trying to mimic some of their behaviors, and then finding someone equal to you that you can challenge and push one another and kind of be your competition that you both feed off one another of. And then if you can, find someone that you help, reach behind you and pull the next person up the totem pole and help out and pass on what you know and be a leader in your community. Whether it's you're high up or low down, there's always someone that wants a hand, and help them come up to your level, and everyone just keeps helping everyone, and society becomes a better place for it.
Yeah, that perspective, I really appreciate that, of always wanting to grow and learn and try and take as much as you can from mentors or people who have already blazed the trail, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what can I learn and grow with from them? But then, yeah, there's the people that we can thrive and we can get a little bit better if there's somebody who we know is, at that similar level where we're going to push and challenge each other and bring out the best in each other. And then, like you said, when you've been in the space long enough, you've got some ideas, you've got practices, you've got ways that you go about doing things that you can help others to fast track their growth and their experience. So surrounding yourself with all those people and being open, being curious, and just having a constant state of growth in terms of your mindset can be really helpful for building those practices that, hey, I'm just trying to move the needle a little bit each day and figure out who's going to help with that and what that might look like. And so as a coach, as someone who's continually helping and trying to improve the happiness and the quality of life of others, what are some of the things that you like to talk about, or some of the ways in which you get started with folks? I mean, you've got athletes come to you who want to compete, and that's probably a very specific type of person and what they're trying to achieve. And then you've got people who are coming in the door saying, hey, I want to check out this place, CrossFit Formula Athletics. What do you guys do? How do you begin the process of figuring out, hey, what do we want to work on? How are we going to go about achieving that? And how can I help you along the way?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I feel is honestly kind of missed in a lot of, whether personal training, gyms, athlete-coach relationships, is just having a conversation. And a lot of times I can figure out 100% what they want by asking them what they want. And you just assume, a lot of gyms just assume if you're coming to a CrossFit gym, you want to be the best CrossFitter there is. But let's be honest, I would say probably 95% of the people aren't upset about their performance in the open. Yes, they want to do their best, but whether they are 101st or 110th or 200th, if they got better from last year, they don't care. There is that population that cares, and they're competitive and they're aspiring competitive athletes, but that's not the average population. So when I onboard a client or a person, I just talk to them. Like, why are you here? What do you want to get better at? And in my world, there are a lot of athletes that are high-level athletes, and they're like, here are my goals, Wadapalooza, semifinals, etc. And we create goals based on that. And even with those clients, it's like, hey, I don't think you saying qualify for Wadapalooza is a good goal, because what if everyone in the world this year does the online qualifier? You could improve 10,000%, but there's sometimes people that are just better than you. So, which is unfortunate, but it's reality. So we need to create realistic goals of, we want to improve on X, Y, Z, things that are tangible and measurable that shows growth. And then the average person or the real person comes in and they say like, hey, I want to be able to play with my kids. Like, I have grandkids. I'm expecting grandkids. I want to be able to live active and play with them. And it's like, how I approach their training and how I approach a high-level athlete's training are two completely different things. There are some people that when they show up to the gym that day, it's a win. They might not have wanted to come, but they said, I had a bad day at work. I need to move today. Like, bad life factors, those things happen. They're just maybe in a low spot that day, that week, whatever. Their victory is showing up. You don't need to go and yell at that person to sprint the last 10 seconds of a workout. What you need to do is you say, hey, I'm super pumped you came today. Let's just put our best foot forward and have some fun. And if they want to scale the run, you say, hey, go hop on a bike. Or if they want to change something or they want to go a little bit lighter, it was definitely worth having a quick conversation about it and seeing if you need to have a deeper conversation about it. But sometimes people, it's like, I had a bad day. I just want to move today. And it's like, cool, let's lighten up the load. We'll keep crushing through this thing. And I think just realizing that people are human beings and not robots. And everyone's different. Everyone's unique. Everyone has problems. Everyone has excitements and joys and highs and lows. And figuring out what drives people and why they're coming in here and what their goals are. And 99% of the time, it's not to be the best CrossFit athlete ever. So creating an environment and a coaching style and the way that you communicate with that individual is going to be unique to them and their goals and their personality, which is going to be drastically different from a high-level athlete and their personality and their goals. So coming and meeting the person where they are versus just trying to put them into your bubble of, I'm going to be a competitive athlete, so you must want to be a competitive athlete. That's not the case, and it rarely is. So you got to meet the athlete where they are and the member where they are and figure out what drives them and help them work towards their goals and not help them work towards your goals.
Oh, yeah. That last piece there, this idea of helping them work towards their own goals, having the conversation, caring about it enough, and figuring out the why and the purpose underneath that allows you to then be able to be adaptable. Hey, in the middle of a workout, do I need to scale this athlete up or down? Do we need to push or pull back? And having those conversations, having the relationships, knowing what their goals are, helps you to do that. And that only really comes through having conversation, getting to know your clients, getting to know your athletes, and figuring out what's most meaningful for them. I'm curious, is there a certain point along the way that you learned that prospect? Because I think it is challenging when you first get into the coaching space if you just assume everybody's goal is like, oh, lift as much weight as you can, do as many pull-ups as you can. And then there's usually a point in time where you're like, oh, wait, that's not everyone else's goal, even if that's my goal. So is there a point in time along the way where you learn that, or is this just something that has kind of been shifted and changing over the years?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just has been shifted and changes, I think, as I matured. And I realized that, I mean, the world's not all about me. Everyone's got their own journey that they're on, and my goals are different from everyone else's, and their journey is different from my journey. And kind of the shift in mindset of, here's how I perceive this situation, but how might they perceive this situation? And those could be two different things. And kind of that self-awareness, I'd probably say, has grown recently. And I say recently as in like when I turned 25, 26, so I'm 30 years now. So like the past 5-ish years, not when I started CrossFit as a coach, but in more recent years, being that everyone's just different. Everyone's unique. No one, with all my athletes or all my training clients or whatever, we start at like the top of the bell curve of like habits that I think will be successful. But I also realized that someone could be very successful in an unlikely situation on the right side of the bell curve, or someone can be very successful in an unlikely situation on the left side of the bell curve. And my job is to figure that out, what works best for them. So over time, I've kind of shifted from trying to fit out. I say this to everyone: you're going to be a bad coach before you're going to be a good coach. You're going to be bad at everything before you're good at everything. So as I've become better, I've learned that not everyone fits into the same bubble, and everyone has to be treated and approached with a similar approach, but it's going to go very drastically different by the time you get to what they need and what's unique about everyone. So the shift has been more so in recent years, but kind of going back to the topic before of, I found that the biggest thing that I think is different between the coaches that are successful and are able to implement these habits versus the coaches that aren't are people that care. If you just care about your community, care about your clients, you'll care to have this conversation. If someone comes in not acting themselves, it'd be easy for me to just be like, I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to coach the class anyways. Or I can care about them and I can go at least have a conversation. It's likely that I'm not going to be the expert in their problem, but sometimes all they want is just to have a conversation about it and to get it off their chest and for someone to listen. So sometimes you just need to be the person that cares and listens to them, and then be ready to potentially reference them to a professional if needed. But a lot of times they just want to vent. They want to get off their chest and they're like, okay, I'm going to go hop on a bike instead of run, but I'm good to go today. This was like, I needed this. I'm glad I worked out. I'm glad I came. And you got to care about the community, meet them where they're at, and realize that not everyone's going to be fitting in the same bubble.
Yeah. I think that having that ability as a coach to be adaptable, it only comes with time and experience and working with just a variety of athletes and figuring out how do people tick, what is most meaningful for them, how can I use my skill sets and all this knowledge and information that I have to best distill it in the simplest form for you. Because there's so many times as coaches, we can want to just overcoach and just overload people because we're super excited. You know, you just finished up a mentorship with Max and now you've got all this information and you're like, I want to give it to everybody. But it's like, okay, we got to figure out who needs it. When do they need it? When's the proper time? And that only comes with experience. There's a saying that I've really been thinking about is the coach you are 1 year from now is going to be embarrassed about where you're at this moment. And you're kind of like, well, I thought I was a decent coach, but all of a sudden each year passes. You're like, wow, I've just learned so much more, figured things out. And I'm just trying to bring that to the people. And it sounds like the care that you're bringing to your community is one of those hallmark cornerstone pieces that's going to drive the success moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we put together, like, obviously with our gym, a business model, a plan. We're going to try to, in my opinion, put together some real good programming, put together some real good coaching habits, create resource for our coaches, for them to be super successful. But at the end of the day, I'm like, we have to be successful. Like, we're good people. We're going to care about these people. It might take a little while, but like, we have to be successful. It's going to be successful. Like, the universe just works in a way that if we continue to be good people, it just has to work out, right? That's at least what I'm telling myself, and we're just staying positive through this process, and we know it's going to be a slow process for the gym growth, but it's just, we're going to put everyone else before ourselves within reason and just try to create a successful community that supports everyone, and we're just optimistic that approach is going to be successful.
Yeah. And I can hear the excitement and how much thought and consideration has gone into this, and how years of coaching and the competitive side and working with others and mentoring and learning and growing is all sort of culminating in this opportunity to build something from the ground up, which is super, super exciting. I'm curious because one of the questions we like to get from our folks is when you think about the principles or just some of those core tenets that sort of guide and influence the way that you think or make decisions or interact with folks and what that looks like. I'm curious if the values that are attached to the gym around being good people and doing the right thing, are those sort of those core tenets and core principles for you that have really guided and influenced the gym? Or are there other sort of principles that really resonate with you of like, hey, when I think about the decisions I make, the type of person I want to be, like, this is what it seems to be all about for me?
Yeah, so I'd say they're very similar because I'm kind of approaching this as like, I am the gym. I'm going to be the leader in this community. So any behaviors that I am willing to tolerate, I'm essentially encouraging. So I'm going to be setting the standard for what is and is not acceptable. And if I want to let people get away with stuff, everyone's going to want to get away with stuff. If I'm going to let poor behaviors take place, people are going to be like, well, it's okay. Poor behaviors take place here. So that's fine. So I'm definitely building the gym on some of my beliefs. And then it's also holding me accountable to it, that I could say the gym is almost like my minus. Like if I'm not living up to these standards, then this whole community is going to be like, he doesn't do it, so why do I have to? So in terms of like those three principles, that's a big thing that helped guide my life. And then a different way that I kind of approach life with, I say that's kind of my decision-making skills, is kind of on those principles. But in terms of my approach towards life is if you're not happy with something, do something about it. If you can do something, do it. If you can't, don't worry about it. So if it's out of my control, there's no point stressing over it. I can't do anything about it. I can't negatively or positively influence this. So I need to move on. And that's easier said than done, but that's what you work towards. And if it's in my control, then you're either going to do something about it or accept the behavior, and you're essentially encouraging it. So, I mean, that's kind of what drove us to open a gym. It was kind of like, hey, we have some choices, some options coming up. Like, I'm working holidays. I'm working this XYZ. If I'm not happy working holidays, if I'm not happy with the amount of time that me and my wife are getting because of my work schedule paired with her work schedule, we have the power to do something about it. And I'm not locked into being a firefighter because someone says I have to. I'm in control of my own fate, and I'm in control of my decisions. And there's pluses and minuses of that, obviously. Like, I enjoyed being a firefighter, but in the grand scheme of things, I had to make the decision that we're going to pursue something else because it's in the best interest of myself, my wife, my goals, and her goals. And realizing that you just have the power to change your life is huge. Life's 1 year from now is going to go by whether or not you do something about it. So if you're not happy, take the steps or start to take the steps to make a change. And it doesn't have to be you just quit your job one day. That's aggressive. But research other options, learn skills that might be interested to you. Start the foundation so that in a year from now, you're not in the same spot, unhappy and upset. So just realizing that like you're in control of your life, for better or for worse. Some things uncontrollable, but you can make positive change in your life, and you need to do that if you're in a position that you're not happy with.
Yes, those big pieces there that you just highlighted are really foundational elements to mental skills such as optimism and resilience, of being able to determine what's within your control and what's not. And starting there of just, hey, if it's within my control and I have say or influence over it, what can I do to positively impact the situation? Even if it's a small step, like you said, just doing some research or trying to figure out maybe some solutions. And then the next piece you talked about is, okay, if I have some control over it, then having the courage and the confidence to make the decisions that are going to help me and move me forward. And sometimes that's the hardest part, is making the decision or determining like, this is what I want to do or what needs to be done. And so I think those big pieces around, being a good person, doing the right thing, knowing what you can control. And then if you have control, make the decision that's going to move you in the direction that you want to go, because like you said, a year is going to go by whether you make the decision to improve or not. So why not bet on yourself, invest in your own happiness, invest in your own fitness and health, and see where it takes you.
100%.
I love it. Well, Zach, I think that's such a great spot to call an end to the podcast. So I want to say thanks so much for taking some time to jump on here with us for today. Love for folks to be able to connect with you. So for anyone out there who's interested in working with you as maybe a remote programmer or getting in touch with CrossFit Formula Athletics, what are the best ways for folks to connect with you?
So my personal account is _TeddyGraham_. And that has a whole other backstory. But then the gym account is at CrossFit Formula Athletics. And those are both our Instagram accounts where we're trying to keep everyone up to date on most of the build out and our timeline. So accessing us through Instagram or our website, www.crossfitformulaathletics.com, are going to be our best ways to reach out to us.
Yeah, and we'll have some links for folks to connect with those places. So once again, thanks so much. I'm looking forward to seeing when the gym gets to open, the community that you get to build, and helping a lot of people live happier, healthier, more fulfilled lives through CrossFit Formula Athletics.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.